after some time in the service, I went back to school and got a teaching credential and taught in San Diego, California for a number of years, for not very many years, but a few. And I was very lucky because I was teaching in a school which was very highly gifted students. And it was a unique school. We gathered our students literally from 15 schools around us. And almost every class in the school was a gifted class. Not entirely, but almost. And it was a really unique teaching situation. I enjoyed it a great deal. But I was in that situation, working away, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine saying there was a possibility of a program for graduate students to go up to Stanford University, what was known as an Experienced Teacher Fellowship. This was sponsored by the federal government. And they required a maximum of 8 years in a classroom, and I was in my 8th year, so I was I hit them right on the nail head. And I sent in my application materials and didn't wait very long, and I got an acceptance back. And this was a real shock to me. I never envisioned, I had gotten a master's degree, but I'd never envisioned getting a doctorate. And I had to go to the school district and get permission to leave and go get this degree. But I wasn't really going for a degree. The Experienced Teacher Fellowship was for 1 year of graduate study. And at the end of that first year, I had been there that time, and I was studying with Elliot Eisner, and he asked me to stay on and do a doctorate. And then I had to go back to the school district and explain to them that I'd been asked to stay on and finish a doctorate. And I had to do that to quite a number of people. But anyway, they all said yes, so I went ahead with that, and I rushed up back and got my doctorate at Stanford, working on a project which was very, very interesting. We were doing what they called, what did they call it? Anyway, we were doing a curriculum development project that Elliot had applied for a grant for.
What's that, SWRL? Is that what
No, this was before that. But we were working on a really interesting, I've talked about this a lot. We worked on a curriculum development project that involved building a box almost as big as this table, not quite, but just about, and filling this box with teaching materials that we created to go along with all of the lessons that we were developing. And I often wondered whatever happened to the box. I know the box ended up in Hawaii, and I have no idea what happened after that. Elliot came back from a trip once and said that it was still in some school over there.
But being used.
It was really fascinating because we developed all kinds of teaching materials to go along with this curriculum that we were writing. And all of these teaching materials ended up in this box. It literally was almost the size of this table. And obviously there was a great deal of material in there. It's really quite fascinating. And this was the background to discipline-based art education in a sense, because we were working on a project with Elliot that did involve art history, art criticism, and aesthetics. So that was a background. And when I went to Stanford, I went with a very interesting group as an experienced teacher fellow. And at the end of that year, then the other people left and went back to their school districts. And I stayed on, and as I said, I met Dwayne Greer there. First I met Michael Day. Michael Day, which I will refer to as Mickey because that's what I've always called him. Mickey and I became friends, and we were both in the same boat. We were both starting to study with Elliot. And then I was there 2 years, and Dwayne came on as a new student from Canada. And then the three of us became very friendly and worked together a great deal. And at the end of that third year then I left, I went to Ohio State University. I was there 2 years, and I got a phone call from Dwayne from California asking me to come back and work on another major curriculum development project. And this was SWRL. This was Southwest Regional Laboratory. I don't know if any of you know anything about regional laboratories, if you've heard that term, but it was quite a major movement at one time. There were 23 regional laboratories around the country, and they were all identified regionally. So there was Northwest and Southwest and Northeast and Southeast and Midwest and all these different kinds of terminologies. But only 2 of them really worked on an art project. Elliot's project at Stanford was an art curriculum development project, and the other one was at SWRL, which is Central Midwestern Regional Elementary Laboratory. And under Stan Medea, I don't know if you know the name. Do you ever use that name at all?
We've probably seen him in some of the writings.
Probably seen him.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Stan Medea headed SWRL, and Dwayne headed the SWRL project. And it was a very fascinating time, and I was plugging away, writing lessons and on. Dwayne had worked with his staff. There was a small staff, but he had worked out a whole curriculum development project in terms of classroom art making, studio activity. But they wanted to have art history and art criticism as part of the curriculum. So that's what I was brought in. I had done the work that I had done at Stanford, and Dwayne knew about that, had worked with that. And so I was asked to write curriculum and in art criticism and art history to go along with the studio projects. And I did that for 2 years, developed a huge amount of material. I won't go into it. This is one book of 12. And each of the 12 books has the same thing in it, and they're really quite interesting. These are film strips to go along with all of the lessons, and these are all the lessons. And no matter where you open the book, except there, no matter where you open the book, a lesson, if I get to a lesson, there we go. This is a lesson. This is a complete teaching activity in terms of instructions for the teacher, and talking about using all of this material. Now this is very interesting. These are drawing, painting, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional artwork, and the program switches amongst those activities over and over and over again. And what we had done in every one of these lessons, and it's very interesting, you're all familiar with the way art is generally taught in public schools, and you know kids are asked to create imagery, and they don't have a set of that imagery necessarily. So what we did, we went out into the community and photographed what it is the kids were going to have to draw. And they were able to see these images before they did the drawing activity or painting activity, whatever. They actually saw the imagery in reality, not just one, but a number of versions of it. And you can look at these. I'll leave these things all out so you can look at them. But they're really very interesting.